Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's June 11, 2013 Board of Selectmen's meeting. The agenda for tonight is citizens' input. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. And Town Manager Kevin Pecos' contract. Ratify release of public statement regarding parties' agreement not to pursue new contract for Kevin Pecos. At 7:10, public hearing, application for change of manager, new officer, director, and transfer of stock of all alcohol package store license for Route 1 Liquor Mart located at 29 Washington Street. At 7:20, Randy Scollins, Finance Director, bi-weekly payroll. At 7:30, public hearing, application for 2013 New England Patriots home games at Gillette Stadium. 7:45, public hearing, application for U.S. Women's vs. South Korea soccer match at Gillette Stadium. At 8 o'clock, application for Brazil vs. Portugal soccer match at Gillette Stadium. At 8:01, Planning Board, Sharon Wasson, planner. Number 1 would be wayfinding program. Number 2, acceptance of FY14 Mass DOT Community Transit Grant of $30,720. 3 would be request permission to authorize chair to sign application for FY14 South Coast Real Technical Assistance. At 8:10, there'll be discussion on request for no parking zone for Springbrook Road and East Belcher Road. At 8:20, Police Chief O'Leary traffic plan for Kenny Chesney concert. 8:30 p.m., we're going to go into executive session for litigation reasons for Welder Dutton. At 9:05, we have an executive session posted, and there was a clerical error posting it. Executive session would be about to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions of contract negotiations with non-union personnel. When the agenda was posted, it did not state these 3 things. 1, Fire Chief Roger Hatfield. 2, Town Manager Kevin Pecos. And 3 would be Deputy Chief John Chandler. Those should have been posted. It was a clerical error, and it has been posted since about 5 today, or 4, Bob?
5 o'clock.
Today, and we apologize for that. Sandra's out, and there was a mix-up. And then I'd entertain, Ginny, would you do the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ginny. All right. Is there anybody here for citizens' input? David, name for the record, please.
Let me just spread this stuff out.
Okay.
We've got to have some exhibits. You could just pass one. David Brown, 17 Merrigan Way, and I'm here as a member of the Foxborough JCs tonight. And I'm here to, invite all you and the entire community to our Concerts on the Common series, which will start this Thursday. And it'll run for, I believe it's 9 Thursdays, other than July 4th into August. The first band is the High School Jazz Band, and it is being sponsored by Foxborough Federal Savings. For the generosity of several businesses, or a number of businesses in the community, this annual project of ours is now fully funded by the business community. And I would just like to acknowledge who the sponsors are. Rodman Ford, Bay Colony Survey Company. Let me just get my crypt
Get
notes
your
here.
list out.
Might help.
Money Group.
Mayfair Realty, On Tip Gloves, The Learning Experience, Douglas A. King Builders, and Foxborough Federal Savings. And we're very, grateful to these companies and businesses for sponsoring. And as a matter of fact, this year, it's the same sponsors as last year. As the fundraiser for this, you go back and see if somebody would like to do it again, and you hope that they felt it was a good experience and, you know, had good feelings about it. So it really made the fundraiser very happy to only have to make 7 phone calls and get this, so. But this is something we've been doing for over 20 years. There's a good crowd there, you know, every week, and I think it brings community together. Also on the leaflet I passed out, there is mention of a community night out in conjunction with the police department. I believe Ed's working on that with the J.C.'s. That's a Wednesday night out there in August. So that's what I have. Come on down, bring your blankets, bring your chairs, bring your good dogs, and certainly support us. We sell soda, popcorn, candy, a few things like that. Helps us raise a little bit of money. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, just so I can read this, what I want to say this very correctly is, I want to note that there was an inadvertent omission on the agenda for executive session at 9:05 tonight. It came to my attention late this afternoon. It was since been corrected, added the positions of the individuals who would hold the executive session positions. Roger Hatfield, the fire chief, town manager Kevin Pecos, deputy chief police Chandler. I just wanted to make sure I read that correctly. And now, being 7:05, I would entertain a motion to ratify the vote taken in executive session on May 29, 2013, to authorize the chair to sign for the board an agreement to amend the renewal provision of the contract between the town and Kevin Pecos.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I think it's important why we're doing this, because at the last meeting, we went into executive session. We spent 2.5 hours there, and then we voted and came back. We already voted on this, and this is to kind of bring it out to the public. And I think a lot of people had a lot of questions after the first meeting, and then we kind of had the screw up. It didn't go on cable. People sat around for a couple hours, then we came out and we just said we're done. So I think if I could just explain a little bit.
Absolutely.
Kevin Pecos had a 4-year contract, our town manager, and we were obligated under the contract to make a decision by June 30th if we were going to renew his contract for another term. If we stayed silent, it automatically renewed. So just prior to that public meeting, which initially was supposed to be public, we got some documentation from Kevin that we needed to go into executive session to kind of figure out, and under contract strategy, and everything was posted right. So we deliberated for a couple hours, and we probably should have gone back into public session to make all those in favor vote. And that's the one thing that we didn't do in public. Everything else I think was okay in executive session, but we should have came out when we're all done to make that public vote. So I think what we're doing now is to acknowledge that it was voted, but then to ratify it in the public session. And I just think it was important for people to understand what this is all about.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Jimmy, for that clarification. Anybody else? All those in favor? Okay. And then I would entertain a motion to ratify the vote taken in executive session May 29 to authorize the chairman to issue on behalf of the Board of Selectmen a statement that the board and the town manager, Kevin Pecos, have mutually agreed not to pursue a contract for Mr. Pecos to serve as Foxborough's town manager beyond June 30th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I will now give the clerk the agreement to read publicly that statement, and if you could read that one first, and then that one.
This is a joint statement of the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager Kevin Pecos. The Foxborough Board of Selectmen and the Town Manager Kevin Pecos have mutually agreed not to pursue a contract for Mr. Pecos to serve as Foxborough Town Manager beyond June 30th, 2014. And this is the agreement, which is signed by Mark Sullivan, Chairman, and signed by Kevin Pecos. an agreement/addendum to contract. The Town of Foxborough, through its Board of Selectmen, parentheses, Board, close parentheses, and Town Manager Kevin E. Pecos, parentheses, Pecos, close parentheses, enter this agreement to address and modify any provisions of the employment agreement between Town of Foxborough and Town Manager Kevin Pecos, signed in October 2010, which is the contract, related to renewal, including automatic renewal of the contract beyond June 30th, 2014. Pecos's employment as town manager by mutual agreement of the parties shall not extend beyond June 30th, 2014. To the extent that there are any provisions of the contract, including without limitation, Section 8, non-renewal of agreement, that require any action or notice from the board or Pecos concerning an extension of the contract beyond June 30th, 2014, each party waives any requirement imposed upon the other party and any claims related to any such requirement. This agreement and the terms herein shall not change any other provisions of the contract and shall not be used to prejudice the position of the parties in any future matter except a proceeding to enforce the terms of the contract as amended by this agreement. It's signed by the Town of Foxborough for the Board of Selectmen by Mark Sullivan on May 29th, 2013, and it's signed by Kevin E. Pecos on May 29th, 2013 as well.
Thank you, John. And you can hand that to the clerk, please.
What was the other one?
I handed it to her
Okay.
already. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, any more discussion on that? Okay, moving forward, we have a public hearing for application for change of manager, new officer, director, transfer of stock for all alcohol package store license for Route 1 Liquors Mart located at 29 Washington Street. Could the clerk please read the public notice?
Legal notice, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Foxborough, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 11, 2013, at 7:10 p.m. in the Andrew A. Gallagher Jr. Meeting Room, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts, on application for change of manager, new officer, director, and transfer of stock of all alcohol beverage package store license for the Third Generation Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Route 1 Liquor Mart, 29 Washington Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts. All interested persons are invited to attend the hearing. Board of Selectmen, Foxborough, Massachusetts, John Gray, clerk.
Thank you, John. Welcome, and your names, please, for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Phil Mackey, 1256 Washington Street, Millwood, Massachusetts, as counsel for and on behalf of the applicant. With me is Jim Sivolinski, his sons Derek and Mark. There are 4 requests before you tonight. I think that's the way it turns out. Basically, what has happened and what we're requesting is Jim is requesting to transfer the ownership of Third Generation Enterprises, which runs Route 1 Liquor Mart, to his sons. He is currently the 100% stockholder, all of the officers, the director, and the manager of the business. And if your board sees fit and the Commonwealth accordingly approves, we are asking that basically the stock be split 50-50 between Derek and Mark. Derek would become the manager. Derek also becomes the president, and Mark gets to become secretary and treasurer, with both being directors. So essentially, it's going from completely in Jim's control to completely in the boys' control. Derek has been working in the business for over 16 years. Mark has been there longer. And with that, I would turn it over to whatever questions you have, or if Jim wants to say anything further on that.
Would you like to say anything, Jim?
Not really. I think that it's pretty cut and dry after having 40-plus years in the business and working on some estate planning. I think this is the right move to make. I can assure the board that with the training that my 2 sons have had over the years and being able to show clearly to me that they're ready to take over, I'm hoping that the board would see fit to allow this transfer. I often said that when I hit 65, I would be fully retired, but now I'm 70, so I think it's time to go on to do other things, and hopefully this transfer would be approved. The one thing I would like to say, though, if I have this opportunity, is that, and I've said it many times over the years, and I'll say it again, anybody going into business, this is the town to come to. I can't say enough about being in Foxborough. The officials here are very welcoming, very supportive. The people that live in this town are just unbelievable, and welcoming people and supporting local businesses. And again, I will emphasize the fact that no other place to be but in Foxborough to become a businessman. And I thank the entire town for the support they've given me. Hopefully it will continue with my sons. And I thank the board, not only this board, but the previous boards that have always been very supportive and have always worked closely with liquor license holders. And I'd be remiss without saying a big thank you to Chief O'Leary for the years that I've had the opportunity to work with him in different regulations and different problems and areas that we've been able to correct in the community. And I just, big accolades to him and his department for the way they conduct themselves and how well they have worked closely with liquor license holders. And again, a big thank you to them, and that's all I gotta say.
Okay. I'll open up to the board. John, any questions?
No, I went through the package, it's pretty extensive, and I did have a conversation with the secretary about 3 days ago, and everything is in order, so I'm satisfied.
Lorraine?
Everything looked in order. Again, I just want to say thank you for being such a responsible business owner and so working so well with Chief O'Leary and the town, the Board of Selectmen in the past. Appreciate all of your input when we were working on the regulations, and I'm sure that the example that you've set, being a responsible business owner, your sons will follow in your footsteps. So I wish them the best.
I thank you.
Yeah, congratulations on your retirement, and I'm sure you've passed on your knowledge and your business sense to your sons, and I know it's a long operation, and good luck as you continue it.
Jim, I've known you for going on 4 years, from a business owner-selectman relationship, and excellent reputation. Jim's taken the time to show me the scanners and the training, and you have an impeccable reputation as a business owner. And you had a lot of pride explaining your father's business, now your business, now the 50-50 split with your sons. And I know you sat on this side of the table in another town as a selectman, so you know how it works, and you seem to be taking the high road when all the issues come along with businesses, and I know it's difficult to run a business with the competition that's out there, and you've done it right. So I appreciate really keeping it in the family. It's a nice transition, and I wish you luck, all three of you.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's the first time I've ever seen a liquor license transfer in the family. Since I've been on the board, and I know the boys. I look forward to seeing this transition, and go ahead.
I would like to make one comment. Sure. The fourth generation is now just sweeping the parking lot, but they'll be hopefully coming along.
Is that the broken glass from when the car hit it?
Yes. They're not allowed in the store at their age, but they're allowed to sweep, so.
Very nice, great. This is a public hearing. Anybody in the audience wish to be heard? Entertain a motion. Close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll move that we accept the application for the change of manager, new officer director, and transfer of stock for all alcohol beverage package store licenses for Third Generation Enterprises doing business as Route 1 Liquor Mart, 29 Washington Street, Foxborough, Massachusetts.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Just a question, you had mentioned there were 4 items. I see.
We have officer/director, so that's
Okay.
2, and then
Okay.
change of stock and change of manager. We actually got caught up in that with Sandy. She's very good, and we realized that that was actually 2 different things, even though it's kind of a slash. But all of the corporate votes were done properly to reflect all 4 things.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. And does that cover all the motion? Do we need to make another one? Does
That was
cover
the
all
3.
4?
No, I read them all.
I
into-
just wanted
Right.
clarification, okay?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
seeing
you.
you.
Thanks.
Next, we have Randy Scollins, our finance director, coming up for bi-weekly payroll discussion.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Lovely, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm checking to see if the application for a one-day liquor license,
And the action
what's that?
was with an action item?
I filed it with...
Yeah, it's under action
Yeah, we have
items.
it.
Yeah, it's on the action list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not part of that attachment if you want to check the...
It's in this, is it something that's time
yeah,
sensitive
it's-
tonight?
It's on for tonight, yeah.
Okay, so I just...
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Is this, you want it, would the board entertain that? Why don't you come up to the table, we'll do that for you right
Okay,
now.
Thank you very much, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Because that's what you really wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
Not at all, not at all.
Do you have the action list?
Right here.
I thank you very much, I'll be very brief.
That would be number
Seven.
6.
Seven.
7.
Yep.
Okay.
No, it's this one down here.
Would you like to make a motion on that?
I move to accept the request for a one-day beer and wine license for June 20th, 2013. This has been petitioned by Jeffrey Lovely, Friends of Boyden Library.
Second?
Any more discussion?
Under discussion, you want to just take a minute and explain what you're doing, so maybe the public can
Absolutely.
participate a little bit?
The event on the 20th is a donor thank you event for donors to the Boyden Library Capital Campaign Fund. There will also be a public rededication at some time in the fall, September or October, for the entire public. But this is a pre-opening donor thank you event. It's going to be a catered event. The caterer has provided certificates of insurance. We have tip certification for the bartenders in the event that the license is approved. Approximately 200 guests. We don't know exactly how many will show up. 7 to 10 p.m. on Thursday, June 20th. It'll be held at the library. The library is getting very close to being ready to be opened. We've had some construction delays, but the project is going pretty well. So the request for this is so that we can serve, probably, this is a beer and wine license. I think it would probably be maybe only wine. We have a distributor in place who's going to help us out with it, and excellent caterer, and looking forward to it. And should be a good time.
And Jeff, could you also explain, because I thought when this request came forward that you weren't allowed to do this on public property. But then there is a situation where you are, help me out, Bob,
Mr. Chair, if I might,
just for clarification for the public.
for clarification purposes, because Friends of Boyden Library is actually a nonprofit organization, they're the ones that are making the application and not the Board of Trustees. So that's a huge difference, and because of that, they're allowed to make that petition to you. And they also have done their homework. They've provided all the insurance coverage. The server is actually not one of the members, but an actual paid vendor who's going to provide the alcohol, and their tip, as Mr. Lovely's indicated, they're tip certified. So they've done all the homework and provided all the evidence to you that they're doing this the right way, and because of their nonprofit status, they're allowed to make that application to the town.
And several years ago, I don't know if you recall, there was an art auction at the library where at that point the selectmen were pouring the wine. It was a one-day beer and wine license, and it was a great success. So we believe there is precedent. I'm not aware of any reason that we can't do it, and as Bob said...
No,
I think
we're not allowed to do that in certain, Bob just kind of explained it. I know other entities that the town owns have tried, Mill Street, per se, have tried to have wine and beer one-day licenses, and they weren't allowed to. But because of the nonprofit status and being filed with the state, you're allowed to. I thought you knew that. So.
No, well, I did believe that to be the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Although I'm not sure the previous application was through the Friends, but...
Yeah, okay. So, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your courtesy in taking me out of order. I'm sorry for those that I delayed.
Okay. Okay, Randy, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here to ask for your authorization to distribute a memo to non-school union presidents and employees regarding a contemplated change from a weekly to biweekly pay schedule allowed by Mass General Law. That's the memo that you should have all received in your packets. As you know from prior discussions with the town manager, it's a goal of town administration to move all employees from a weekly to a biweekly pay schedule. All school employees have been on a biweekly schedule for decades. On the municipal side, this board has authorized and supported the change for the police department to go to biweekly, and as you know, they've agreed. The town manager and I are now looking for your support to discuss changing to a biweekly schedule with the remaining municipal unions, which would be the DPW, fire, and library. We're not looking for a vote at this point in time to go to a biweekly pay schedule for those employee groups. We're just looking for a vote authorizing discussions with the unions about possibly changing to biweekly. Again, consistent with our policy goal of biweekly pay for all town of Foxborough employees. Even though we have the police union that's already agreed to this, it's just not practical to change pay schedules for some municipal employees and not others. The objective is to gain needed efficiencies, administrative efficiencies in both the finance offices and all of the other 14 municipal departments and their administrative offices, because they prepare the payrolls and submit them to us. I've estimated that in the Treasury and accounting offices alone would gain from 10 to 15 hours per non-pay week, and times 26 weeks, because would eliminate 26 weeks of payroll processing. That equates to, on average, about 9 weeks of efficiency annually. These are much-needed efficiencies that we need in these offices, given all the other responsibilities that we've taken on over the last couple of years. I've also polled a representative sample of the other 14 administrative offices, small, medium, large, in terms of the payroll that they process. And they estimate they'd gain anywhere from 1 hour in a small office, just a couple of employees, to 6 hours in an off-pay week, for an annual savings of 1 to 5 weeks in efficiency annually per department, again, depending upon the respective scale and complexity. And again, given the lean administrative staffing, this is the sort of efficiency that all the administrative offices really need in order to best function. As far as dollar savings, the payroll service savings, we use a third-party payroll processor. We have to input it into the payroll service, but we have to pay them to generate the checks and the taxing services. But the payroll savings is $7,500 annually, so that it's modest savings, again, because the schools are already on biweekly, so it's just the remaining municipal side, and that's paid to our third-party payroll service. Just so you know, this has already been cut from the finance department budget for FY14, in anticipation that we would be successful here. We'll see. If the board authorizes the release of this memo regarding the contemplated change, we'll distribute it this week to the 3 union presidents, as well as all of the non-school town employees. We will then respond to any concerns and questions that they may have, and honor any bargaining responsibilities that we have as well. We've developed a list of FAQs, frequently asked questions, as well as the proposed pay date calendars for the next 2 fiscal years, also to be distributed with the memo in order to more fully explain the effect of making such a change. So I'm happy to take any questions, comments, concerns. What I was asking for is a vote of the board to authorize the distribution of the memo, so that we could begin discussions, not asking for any vote. And yes, the town manager has authorized this to go forward, and Labor Council has drafted this memo for us.
Great, thanks for that explanation, Randy. Any questions?
Randy, if all this goes smoothly, and I think you're anticipating that it will, you want to get this in place by the end of September?
It would be optimal to have the last weekly paycheck on September 19th, and then the first biweekly paycheck to be 2 weeks later on October 3rd. You know, if that's possible. We can't be presumptive about it, but we had to put a stake in the ground as to, you know, what it would look like. And we picked that time frame because there are 3 biweekly pay periods in October, which would make for an easier transition from a weekly paycheck.
All set, Sean?
What's up?
All right?
Everything looks good. I think the frequently asked questions sheet will be very helpful to the employees as they consider it, and, you know, hopefully it'll go well.
Great, thank you.
Jeannie?
No, also, I learned a lot from the frequently asked questions.
Yeah. And nice job putting it together in the Mass General Law outline and the steps. Any questions I had was answered on the facts. It makes complete sense. I can't imagine it not going through. What objections would people have?
It's change. You know, for whatever reason, municipalities seem to be one of the last bastions of the, you know, weekly paycheck. This is a wave that's been going through over the last 10 years. There was legislation that was passed 10 years ago that called the Municipal Relief Act that allowed for this to happen. We see on our listserv, the various finance listservs, whether it's Treasury or accounting or finance officers, we see this happening in waves in other municipalities because everybody's asking each other, their colleagues in other towns, you know, what process did you go through, what hurdles did you run into? It's really just the change aspect, and in getting out ahead of it, communicating it well, and then helping anybody who may have struggling, you know, managing their finances. We intend to bring in our payroll bank for a personal banking seminar. TD Bank is who we, you know, have all our payroll business with, and they've offered to provide seminars on personal banking, you know, for the employees. And we also intend to do a building by building, assuming it goes forward, a building by building employee sessions. And then we also need to work with all the 14 different payroll administrators, you know, those staffs, to discuss any, you know, minor changes in the process.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion?
All right, I move that we accept and approve the memo to all non-school town of Foxborough union presidents, except the police. This memo was written by the town manager, and by accepting it, we'll authorize a discussion with those bodies to discuss the change to a biweekly pay schedule.
Very good.
Second?
Any more discussion? Randy?
Good.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, couple minutes behind, being 7:30. John, could you read the public hearing notice?
Hearing notice. The Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Sections 183A and Chapter 136, Section 4. Town of Foxborough Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 11, 2013, beginning at 7:30 p.m. in the Andrew A. Gale Jr. Meeting Room, 40 South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the 2013 New England Patriots home games. These events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. Application for these events is on file at the Office of the Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend. Board of Selectmen, Foxborough, Massachusetts, John Gray, Clerk.
Smile a little bit.
Welcome, Jess.
Thank you very much for having us. Jess Stevenson with the New England Patriots Gillette Stadium and the Craft Group.
And can everybody else introduce themselves, please?
Mike Ashburn, Vice Chairman of the Stadium Advisory Committee.
Jim Covery, General Counsel for the Craft Group.
Welcome. Okay, Jess, why don't you take it?
So it's no real changes from last year. It's a standard application for the NFL season. Same amount of games. There's no major change to the schedule. There's no major changes to our overall stadium operation, and nothing significant with respect to parking. There have been some changes, and Chief O'Leary has been in discussion with Mark Briggs, who is the COO of Team Ops, which is our security company in the stadium, with respect to how to move forward in the light of recent events here in Boston, and make sure that we provide the safest experience possible for all of our patrons. So it's something that has already been in discussion. There are new procedures already in effect for Revolution matches. And I believe it was last week, or it might be next week, both Chief O'Leary and Mark Briggs will be traveling to New Orleans for NFL meetings strictly based on security to review new protocols, new procedures, make sure that, again, like I said, we're providing the safest experience possible. But aside from moving forward with some new security procedures, everything else remains the same, from capacity to ticket price. There are no significant changes from previous years.
Thank you. Mike, anything from Stadium Advisory?
Everything is okay.
Okay, great. Jim, anything to add?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Questions from the board, Jim?
Nope, all set.
Ginny?
Oh, I just had a question about the medical area. I understand that it had been moved. Has that,
For concerts only.
oh, for concerts only, okay.
Yes. And it's anticipated to be up and running for the July 20th Bon Jovi concert.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Right?
All set. Thank you.
Sean?
I'm all set.
So public hearing, anybody from the public wish to be heard this matter? Seeing none?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay,
Just gonna read this motion.
absolutely. You want to read
Okay.
that motion?
I move, with the assent of the applicant, that the application of NPS LLC to hold the 2013 New England Patriots regular season 10 home games at Gillette Stadium on August 16th and 29th, September 12th and 22nd, and October 13th and 27th, and November 3rd and 24th, and December 8th and 29th, 2013, 2 potential playoff games / resident open training camp be approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant shall, by June 30th, 2013, execute and provide to the town of Foxborough an indemnification agreement in a form and substance satisfactory to and approved by this board. 2, that the applicant shall, by June 30th, 2013, obtain and place liability insurance for said events, insuring both the applicant and the town of Foxborough in a form and substance satisfactory to and approved by this board. And 3, that the physical license for said events shall be retained by the board or its representative and held in escrow pending the applicant's compliance with conditions number 1 and 2 above.
Second?
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Okay, thank you. The next one we have is another public hearing, John. Read into the record.
Okay.
I think we're a little early.
This is the,
Oh, yeah, you might be right.
Just
Thank you,
in-
Lorraine. Yeah, we have to wait to 7:45. That went too quick.
Just some.
Because it's a public hearing, we have to wait the exact time. Thank you, Lorraine. All right, let's go to action and have a couple of action items. Take care of them. Okay. We have the minutes of May 7th and May 21st, 2013. Anybody have anything to correct on those?
May 7th, just a correction on the spelling, Paul Dumas, D-U-M-A-S. Where is he? On the very bottom of page 1.
Anything else from anybody?
Looks good.
Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen minutes of May 7th with that one spelling correction.
Second?
Okay. Lorraine, anything on the 21st?
No.
Anybody else?
We're going to vote on the 7th?
Oh, I'm sorry.
we can do it together.
Second, all those in favor? All right, thank you, Jim. Okay, and now for the minutes on the 21st. Anybody? Seeing none?
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from May 21st as presented.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Bill Cunningham, Bay Colony Orpheum Theater, request for a one-day beer and wine license.
I'll make a motion to accept the request by Bill Cunningham, Bay Colony Orpheum Theater, for a one-day beer and wine license for June 15th, 2013.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Council on Aging, resignation of Jean, is that Jean?
Jean Bonneau.
Jean Bonneau, for the Council of Aging Board.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Jean Bonneau from the Council on Aging Board, effective when?
May 1st.
Immediately?
May 1st.
Effective May 1st.
I don't have that.
Letter is dated.
Oh, effective May 1st, 2013.
Second.
With gratitude after 3 years of
Thank you,
serving.
All those in favor? Okay, and then we have a request to appoint.
I'll make a motion to accept the appointment to fill the vacancy on the Council of Aging Board, appointing Mildred S. Green and Elizabeth Travers.
Second.
All those in favor?
One question.
Point of information, it's a replacement by one member, not two, so you have to review.
Choose.
You have to choose between either of those people provided. And I'm not sure what your practice has been in the past, but you have two candidates for one position.
Okay. It's not typical that happens. We usually have multiple positions to fill.
Right.
Is it
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, other than the signature page, there's no, for better
information?
lack of a better word, resume or backup information?
On the very back, there are two requests, very back of the packet.
Okay.
Is it proper that we, what is this?
On this application, the, Ms. Travers, the term expiring 6/1/2016, and the other one is 5/1/2016. It expires.
Oh, sorry.
Are those two different terms?
It's meant to be the same one. I think it's just a typo on the date, and we could clarify that.
Oh, it's a letter from the board.
Okay.
Can I read this?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
We're in receipt of a letter from the Secretary of the Council on Aging Board dated May 30th, 2013, to the Town of Foxborough Board of Selectmen. Please be advised that Jean Bonneau has submitted her letter of resignation to the Council on Aging and Human Services Board of Foxborough as of April 2013. The board would like to have appointed Mildred Millie Green, 1 Inman Lane, Foxborough, to fill the position. Millie partakes in senior center activities throughout the week and volunteers on a weekly basis. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and it's signed by Ian Alibrandi.
So Ms. Alibrandi was in receipt of both applicants, and she chose, the committee chose one over the other? Is that what?
Chair, if I might, I believe what happened in this case was Jean Bonneau had submitted her resignation to the Board of Selectmen. It had been received, but it was crossing in the appointments, because the appointments go out at the very end of April, beginning of May. So it just crossed in the mail, essentially. So Jean Bonneau was appointed again. And they, you know, your board, when you did the appointments, you were not aware that she actually intended to resign. And at that time, the Council on Aging Board was requesting that Mildred Green be appointed in that same process. However, I believe there's also, you know, the other person, Elizabeth Travis, had also expressed interest. And I'm not sure if the Council on Aging was aware that your board actually made the appointments and that they don't make a recommendation or whatever. You make the appointments based on your own reasons or your own information.
Right.
So you need to make a determination between these two parties as to which one you feel, as a board, best would fill that spot.
Why don't, as a board, why don't we shelf this one and we'll reach out?
Well,
Teaching,
Miss Green's form was received March 20th, 2013. Ms. Travers was the form was received May 2013, and the letter from the Council on Aging was May 30th, 2013. So to me, it looks like they knew that there were two people who applied. Is that, am I reading that
I don't know
correctly?
that. I'm not sure.
Well, through the chair, you want to take this under advisement tonight,
Okay.
and maybe, Bob, you could reach out to the Council on Aging and just kind of get some, if this is a situation where they had two applicants and they're recommending one, I think we want to make sure of that.
I'm pretty sure it's clear from their letter, they're recommending Ms. Green. I don't know if they knew there was another party interested
Yeah.
at that point.
Okay.
Well, do you want to shelf or you want to vote on it with the recommendation from the letter? I'll
You know,
entertain
it-
a motion.
My feeling, it's an important position, and if they recommended one without having the applicant, if the second applicant, it kind of gives a little injustice to the second applicant. And it's probably, it may be in a comfortable situation where they may have to reevaluate it and send it in, but I don't think there's any harm in waiting 2 weeks.
No, I
If you
don't
could
think so.
sort that out.
Okay. And I believe, Ginny, just to your point about the term, typically the term is 5/1, and I think that's just a typo on the 6/1, so I will also clarify that with Sandra, and we'll have both appointment letters available with the correct date.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay. All right, John, seeing as 7:45.
All right. The Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4, Town of Foxborough Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 11th, 2013, beginning at 7:45 PM in the Andrew A. Gaylor Jr. Meeting Room, 40 South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the USA Women versus South Korea soccer match. All events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. All applications for these events are on file at the Office of the Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend. The Board of Selectmen, Foxborough, Mass., John Gray, Clerk.
John. Okay, seeing that we're all here. Now, this is something new, Jess, with
It
this.
is.
So it's,
We haven't had the USA Women's team at the stadium anytime in the last 8 years, I can say that for sure. And so it's just going to be an international friendly between USA Women and South Korea. We're not anticipating a significantly large crowd, about 15,000. It'll be heavily dependent on the weather on Saturday. So it'll be the exact same operational setup as a Revolution match. The promoter, I think the only thing sort of note in this application is that the promoter is actually U.S. Soccer. It isn't a craft soccer event. The last time that U.S. Soccer was in the building was the USA-Spain match in 2011. So they've been to the facility before, they're familiar with our building, they're familiar with the public safety policies of the town, have working relationships with Chief O'Leary and Chief Hatfield. So that's the only sort of different thing about this application. Other than that, it'll be run exactly as a Revolution match.
lower bowl, all that.
Exactly, lower bowl only, a small GA section in between sections 141 and 143. It'll be all of the parking, unless necessitated, all of the parking will remain on the stadium side of the stadium, nothing in P10 or across the street. And like I said, we're not anticipating anything larger than 15,000.
Okay, thank you. Mike,
No issues, approved unanimously.
any questions from the board?
It's exciting.
All set?
John,
No.
you all set? It's a public hearing. Any questions from the public? Seeing none?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the licensing of the match, and it's going to be held on which date?
June
15.
15th.
June 15th, 2013, between the USA Women versus South Korea soccer match at Gillette Stadium.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, Jess, what we got you here, I understand that Brazil versus Portugal soccer match could be a non-factor, or?
You know, hopefully everything will work out, but there was a couple of changes that took place after we submitted the application. Most importantly was the promoter. So with that information being incorrect on the application and without the contracts being finalized, we didn't want to move forward. We officially made the motion during the Stadium Advisory Committee to retract the application, and we will reapply once everything is completely finalized. Right now, we're at about 90%, but there's still some important details that need to be established, so.
Okay, so, how do we handle that? Just don't have the public hearing at all? Or
I think we have to open and close the public hearing and then do no action.
even though the application could be totally different?
They're going to resubmit a new application, so that'll be a brand-new process, and it'll start from the first peg going forward. So you do need to open tonight, and you take no action on it, and so that package will be closed. Again, you probably need to wait till 8 o'clock to do that.
Right.
The actual license application was withdrawn.
Right. But we still got
Has it been formally withdrawn? Has the application been withdrawn?
formally, yeah.
Formally, okay.
That's why, so Bob, you still
So,
take,
You just take a vote on this document that's presented to you today. You vote no action on it. They'll submit a new program when they're ready to go.
okay, so we'll wait 7 minutes, we'll go back to action then?
Or number 4, Mark.
Number 4, okay, donation of $200 from Foxborough Federal Savings to the Recreation Gift Fund request.
I move that we accept the donation of $200 from the Foxborough Federal Savings to the Recreational Gift Fund with gratitude.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, number 5, donation of $217 from Stefan Gully to the Animal Control Gift Fund.
I move that we accept the donation of $217 from Stephen Gully to the Animal Control Gift Fund with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 6, donation of $250 from Foxborough Cable Access to the Library Gift Fund for renewal of the museum pass to the John F. Kennedy Museum.
I move that we accept the donation of $250 from Foxborough Cable Access to the Library Gift Fund for the renewal of the museum pass to the John F. Kennedy Museum, again with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor?
Just quick under discussion. I was at an event last night, and Foxborough Cable Access was there, and the event was 3.5 hours. And I got to talking to the guy that was behind the cameras. Between May and June, the amount of events that the Foxborough Cable Access cover for the town of Foxborough, the parade aside and the graduation aside, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just hit me. Now this isn't a situation where they're actually giving money, as well as all the volunteers, I think, except for Mike Weber and maybe 2 people are paid, but there's a tremendous amount of volunteers that come with Foxborough Cable, so just a thanks, a public thanks to them, that's all.
Including our very own Frank here tonight, so, thank you. All right, number 8, because we did 7, right?
Motion was made. Sorry, I butted
Oh, I'm
in.
sorry, yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, number 8, request to hold a block party on July 27th, rain date July 28th, between 9 and 22 Eastman Ave. Is this an
Okay.
annual one? I don't,
No, they've done this before.
have they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move that we approve the request to hold a block party, or actually, I move that we accept the request by Cynthia Ferguson, Eastman Avenue resident, to hold a block party on July 27th, a rain date of July 28th, between 9 and 22 Eastman Avenue.
Second.
Any discussion?
And under discussion, to amend that with the provisions provided with acting town manager Robert Cutler's requirements. There were 4 of them in here that go along with the application. Noise limitation, barricades, emergency access, no alcoholic beverages.
On the street?
They're pretty much spelled out in the letter.
The letter.
The attached letter.
Bob, how many years have they been doing
Do you
this?
want to amend that, or just?
Quite a few.
Yeah,
I guess if you made the motion asking for you to amend it to include that
yeah,
letter.
okay, give me that again. I'll just continue with the motion.
Sure.
Okay. The motion continues that noise should be limited and any music must stop playing by 8:00 PM. If you propose to barricade Eastman Avenue, you must use portable horses. I'm assuming that's sawhorses.
Sawhorses, yeah.
Where Phillip Lane and Eastman
Trojan
Avenue.
horses.
Trojan horses. Palmer Road and Eastman Avenue intersect. Emergency access is to be maintained for police and fire vehicles, and no alcoholic beverages are to be served or consumed on the public way.
Second.
More discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, number 9, new Hackey's license effective for 2 years. Anwar Salaba. Did I pronounce that right? I've been getting a lot of Hackey's licenses. Lorraine, you got something on your mind?
Nope.
All right, I'll make the motion. I move that we approve a new Hackey license effective for 2 years for Anwar A. Saliba.
Second.
All those in favor?
Is this new or renewal?
It's a renewal.
It says new Hackey license.
Oh, it is new, yeah.
Just as a point of information, since you raised that question.
It's not checked off.
question. Yeah, there's a business that went through site plan approval, I believe, down at, on Cocasset Street, and that's where the business will be run out of. This is the brother of the owner of that business, and since he's gonna be driving on his own license, he needs to apply under his own, and that's the reason for this license application.
Okay. All those in favor? All right, 5-0 again. All right. Bob Cutler, Town Clerk, warrant for special state primary. Bob, you
Okay.
want
Well, you want to, I'll make the motion, we can have discussion.
it? Okay.
I move that we accept the warrant for the special state primary as presented by Bob Cutler, our town clerk.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0 again. Okay. Gabrielle Jordan, Planning Department, public hearing on June 13th for site plan for out parcel pad development at Patriots Place. Is that informational?
Information.
I
Okay.
don't think there's a vote needed on that.
No. And this is the one that just came in the charity ride, or is that?
Yeah, this we got the completed application today.
Yeah, on the back. So we want to take that, John, with the motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve the request by Megan Cote from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society to hold a charity bike race through Foxborough on June 22nd through 23rd, 2013.
Subject to
Oh, so,
conditions
actually,
of
do you have
Chief
that?
O'Leary.
You don't have them?
No, Lorraine's gonna pass it down.
On the very bottom, John, there's a comment by Chief O'Leary.
Oh. Subject to the condition as presented by Chief O'Leary, his only concern is the need for warning signs on Route 140 about bicycles from Cross Street to Post Road.
You second? Okay. All those in, any more discussion? All those in favor?
One question, they've done this for a number of years, have they not? Or is this,
I'm not sure about this one. There's so many now, John, between road races and bicycle races.
one every
and-
week, yeah?
John, I believe this is a new request, don't know that they've done this before.
Oh, it says here they've been doing it for 26 years, riding through the local area, but I'm wondering, is this the first time coming through Foxborough?
It appears it was first time for us because they initially had sent requests to my office and not through the Board of Selectmen. We reached out to them. They weren't aware of the process to have sign off by the police, fire, and DPW.
Is that why the documents got here so late?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually reached out the end of May, and it was just very difficult for us to get a hold of the person who involved. Apparently was on vacation. And Sandra and Chris Mate reached out to them and provided them with the appropriate documentation that was presented. It's been reviewed by the chief with his comments, Roger Hatfield as well, and Roger Hill all have signed off on the necessary forms. So I believe that the request is in order.
Okay, thank you. Edward?
I was going to add, the board, this is the first request by this particular group for this fundraising event through our streets.
Okay.
That, again, as explained, they went to the town clerk, they had a more functionary process.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor? I believe that ends the action, right? Okay.
Now we're going to open this and...
Yes,
Okay.
the 8
Hang
o'clock
tight.
public hearing.
All right, the Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4, Town of Foxborough Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 11, 2013, beginning at 8 o'clock p.m. in the Andrew A. Gaylor Jr. Meeting Room, 40 South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the Brazil versus Portugal soccer match. All events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. All applications for these events are on file at the Office of the Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend. Signed by the Board of Selectmen, Foxborough, Massachusetts, John Gray, Clerk.
Okay.
So, motion to close the public
Well,
hearing?
do you want to take a motion to take no action?
We have
There's
to-
no applications.
So it's moot.
It's just a procedural thing, so I
Procedural.
believe you make a motion
Motion
to close the...
public hearing. Okay.
Second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, entertain the motion, no action?
I'll make a motion to vote no action on the Brazil-Portugal for the reason that we understand the application has been withdrawn.
Second?
With one point of clarification, if I might, there were 2 dates requested, the 9th and the 10th of September, so this action will be taken for both of those dates.
Separately?
I think you can include them together.
Take no action.
No action on both of the dates.
Amend it, vote to take no action on both dates as applied for the Brazil and Portugal, for the reason that we understand that the applications have been withdrawn.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike, thank you. Okay. Okay, planning board, Sharon. Welcome. Yes, please come down. Sit in the middle, there's a microphone right there for you.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Okay, got a couple of things for us tonight.
I sent you a memo. I did a letter to the town manager on May the 14th and wrote a memo to you dated June the 6th that should have been in your packet. The planning board, in both the master plan work that's been completed so far and the downtown parking study, both studies have recommended that there be a wayfinding program. So people who aren't so familiar with the town, people who may work here and not live here, can better find a lot of the nice amenities that we have available in businesses. The planning board thought it was a good idea, but they wanted to get input from the Historical Commission and the Board of Selectmen. I spent close to an hour with the Historical Commission. We had a very productive discussion. In concept, they think it might be a good idea. Their big concern is there's a proliferation of signs already around the common. So that if there were such a study, they would want to look at existing signs and consolidate the information, come up with clearer signs that made more sense, and people could better find things. They felt it wasn't a situation all the time that there wasn't a sign to somewhere, but you couldn't see the forest for the trees. So their position was make the signs count, make them work better, They liked the idea of consistent design, but they didn't want it to be too slick or too designed. They wanted it to feel like a town like Foxborough would have. And they really wanted to try and complement the historic architecture and their historic markers. So I've come to you guys to see if you have any input, and I'd certainly be glad to, instead of putting you on the spot tonight, hear from you at a future date if you think this is a good idea and that it's a project the board should undertake.
John?
I think if you go uptown, you'll see that it's the forest for trees. All you see is signs. You don't see much of the common. But that was built when that road was reconstructed. I think
Right.
that happened under the jurisdiction of the state.
Right.
Do we have the ability to either work with them or, I don't know, override them so that we can have
Well, it's a new DOT.
so we can have sort of tasteful signage?
Right, it is a new DOT, so a new friendlier DOT. So certainly working with them would be, I think, part of this project to see what signs are in fact superfluous. Is that a good word?
Big.
Could be.
All set, Sean?
Yep.
Anybody else?
The J.C.'s put up those banners at the
Yep.
holiday season, and also the Founder's Day Committee.
Founder's Day.
So you'd be working with them so that they could continue doing that?
Certainly, and there's a possibility of developing, as I noted in number 3, additional banners that might go up that were seasonal or promoted another community event. I think the banners are really nice, and they give a real lively feeling to the downtown. So that's one of the alternatives we were looking at, is increasing the portfolio of banners, if you will.
Jim, anything?
If I could make a suggestion, I've worked in a few times where we've brought that idea in, and it's been banners. You know, sometimes it's the ones that go across the street or as you're driving through. But I think the intent is when people are coming into town that it's a place that maybe
Right.
find a place to park and then get out of the car.
Right.
But some of the towns that have been successful doing it, they've broadened it rather than just signs. There's some benches. There's maybe some awnings that are kind of commonality along there, so people would park. And if they're waiting to have breakfast at the Commons restaurant, there's a place to sit outside. So when people are driving through, it doesn't look so empty, and they might find a place to park, sit outside, have a trash can there, a bench. You know, that kind of all goes together. And there's a lot of towns.
Plantings. Some
Yeah,
of the
plantings to kind of
merchants have
freshen
worked
up the
together.
place and make it look like a place that you want to sit rather than just drive through. Norwood did a nice job. You know, they did a clock out there, banners, and it was kind of the complete package. It was probably a little bit more funding the different groups that are out there, but what you saw is a boost in the restaurants. They'll go out there at night now if there's a place to walk out and sit, and I think it's a little more than just signs. Is there an opportunity to broaden that a little bit?
That's why I'm here tonight. I think what I'd like to do is, some of the members of the board are here tonight, but make a full report to them, get their ideas, and send kind of a final memo. This is what our plan is, and see if you guys would think that's a good idea to move forward on.
Yeah.
So any other ideas, please let me know.
Elaine, anything to add?
No, I think it's a great idea. I think working with the Historical Society would be very important. I think, Jim, that's really a great approach
Yeah,
to
the
expand it. So,
streetscape,
yeah, I like
as
that
well as
idea a
just
lot.
signage.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the next.
As you know, 2 years ago, we got a grant to prepare a housing production plan, and we held a joint hearing, the Planning Board and Board of Selectmen, to adopt the plan. This year, we got a grant from South Coast Rail to review and recommend zoning changes for the downtown, to come up with more of a real mixed-use district. And so we're applying this year for 2 applications from the town of Foxborough. One of them will get funded. One is to revise our subdivision rules and regs, and the second is to create design guidelines for the downtown. And we're also applying with the town of Easton and other South Coast Rail communities to develop a regional bicycling plan, look at the feasibility of regional bicycle trails on-road and off-road. So I would like to respectfully request that the board authorize the chairman to sign these 3 grant applications on behalf of the town. And I took the liberty of preparing a motion.
Fire away.
We're busy tonight.
Yep. I move to authorize the chair to sign South Coast Rail fiscal year 14 technical assistance grant applications, plural, to revise the Foxborough subdivision rules and regulations to create design guidelines for the downtown and with the town of Easton and other South Coast Rail impacted communities to develop a regional bicycling plan.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Just a quick, why the town of Easton? Where did that come from?
They're taking the lead. They're working with Sharon, Foxborough, Canton, and Mansfield to come up with a plan for the communities, the northernmost South Coast Rail impacted communities. And they wanted to look at what existing designated bicycling trails there are, whether there were other trails that made sense, but they recognize that you can't just stop at the state line when you're dealing with, the town line when you're dealing with bicyclists.
John?
Just if you got this money and you went forward and you investigated these, I don't know, are there other towns that have actually received this grant, and how did they use it, and what impact did it have on their community?
We don't actually get cash. We get services from our Regional Planning Commission, and they provide us, it usually varies between, one year it was $21,000 worth of assistance, and another year it was $25,000 worth of assistance.
This isn't to create any changes, this is to investigate possibilities. Okay.
Sharon, on your subdivision rules, and one of these, I think this is part of it, you're looking at low-impact LID
Right.
principles. Has the board talked about doing that regardless of this process? You know, the
Yes,
sustainability and...
Last year, we hired, we did an RFP and hired an engineering firm to review our subdivision rules and regs and make recommendations for updating and improvement. We were very pleased that Mr. Tusos is building a rain garden down at the rink, and that other people have adopted, if you will, some of the low-impact development principles. So we wanted to encourage that more in our bylaws. They tend to be a lot more flexible, and we're dealing with so many sites that are very tight because they're reuse sites. And we thought that that was a good idea.
So that this might get you there a little quicker with this grant?
It certainly would get us there a lot quicker.
Okay, great.
Anything else? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? You'd like that right now, Sharon?
Sure. I think the third item on the agenda is that the board was very pleased that we received a grant for $30,720 real dollars, not services dollars, to do a transit feasibility study for the town. It was extremely competitive. We were pleased to have the second highest ranked grant in the state. We were just thrilled that we got this funding. We were the only new applicant funded this year. So when I get some sort of formal letter, I will come to you and ask for your permission to accept the grant. And since we're on a roll, the board is applying for what is now called PARC, P-A-R-C. It used to be the old self-help grants for the renovation of the Payson Road recreation area. Between donations of the various Chestnut Green developers, we have enough money to leverage $300,000 grant. So we want to clean up the fields along Payson Road where all the storm brush has been deposited and the loam piles, get the portions of the parking lot that need to be paved, do some landscaping, put in some signage, really dress it up and get it suitable for use, and so that it's a much more attractive from the road and from the neighbors' homes facility. So we are having a public meeting on Monday, the 24th, at 7 PM in the McGinty Room. And we've sent cards inviting all the neighbors to the public meeting to get their ideas. As Jim pointed out, do they want benches? Do they want community gardens? Or there's something else that they'd like to see on that 42-acre playground and recreation area? So we really want to get their ideas. Once we have everybody's ideas, we're going to have a public hearing on the 11th of July, the planning board at 7:30, to vote to submit the grant. And I was going to come to you on July the 9th and ask Mr. Sullivan to sign that grant application. So just wanted to keep you updated.
We need a motion to accept.
You're gonna come back with a formal.
I'll come back on July the 9th.
Is that it? Any
I attended the Plain Ridge public meeting, and I'm quite concerned about making sure that we get all the studies done that we need to do to determine if we're an impacted community. So,
And I think that the board has some work to do on that. If you remember, on April 2nd, Board of Selectmen sent a letter over to the Board of Selectmen in Plainville, and we copied it to the Gaming Commission. We did not send it to the applicant, Plain Ridge.
Okay.
Under the Mass Gaming Commission regulations, we need to notify Plain Ridge that we consider ourselves, or that we may consider ourselves, an impacted abutting community.
and it looks like the deadline for that is going to be towards the end of July. It's going to be much
Correct.
sooner than
Yep.
I would have thought,
Yeah.
based on the timeline.
So I think we're taking the right steps. We're reaching out. As you remember, we appointed a committee to look at that. They're actually meeting tonight. And rather than just say we're an impacted committee from the, community from the selectmen's perspective, they've been doing their due diligence, and they're going to come back to us with a request or some information that, we think we're an impacted community, and these are the reasons why, after going to, the different meetings and doing the research. So probably at the next public selectmen's meeting, we should authorize Dick Ellerman to send over another letter, if that's what it comes back to.
Yeah, because not on the agenda tonight.
It's not
so-
tonight. But no, it is,
Glad that one's
it is on the agenda.
As far as,
Discussion, attendance of the Plain Ridge public meeting on the 4th. This is part of Sharon's topic.
But it's not listed on her agenda
list
item.
here, I don't have it here on the front.
It's not on the agenda item,
up
so it's
front.
something that needs to be added to
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
future
saying.
agenda.
In the future agenda, we'll
Yeah,
put it on
yeah.
there to move
So-
forward.
I just wanted to give them an update.
No, I
Right, no, that's
appreciate
fine.
that.
So I'll talk to Sandra about adding that to the agenda.
Bill, you need to speak?
Just want to take the opportunity while Sharon was here. We've said it to the planning board, but we haven't said it in a public forum such as this, that first off, Sharon's changing her name to Sharon Grant Wasson. But as Jim asked, was the planning board going to do A, B, or C without these grants or these monies? And as Sharon so eloquently stated, yes, but every grant that she's brought in, either as in-kind or as real money, has allowed us to move forward without dipping into our budget or going in front of AdCom looking for some increase to supplement what we're spending. So we've been able to move forward on the master plan and get some items done through Sharon's efforts for grants, and we're continuing with these. So I just wanted to make sure that she got the public acknowledgement for this work that she's done for the community and the planning board specific.
Well stated. I couldn't concur more. I think you do a wonderful job, Sharon.
Oh, thank you.
We're really blessed to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Can we also put on a future agenda? I understand there was an RFP created in regard to getting a consultant, but it was nothing's been done with it. So can we get an update on that? What?
RFP for what?
consultant.
For the master plan?
Racino.
For
Oh.
the,
Oh.
I think the committee, the Racino committee went through the efforts of drafting an RFP. It's sitting on Kevin's desk. So that's got to go move forward, and that would enable a town to hire a consultant to look at the other reports and maybe do our own. And we got to get in the funding mechanism through the State Gaming Commission, so
So if we could just get an
I'll
update
ask
on
Sandra
the,
to add
it's
that
just got to be
agenda.
nudged a little forward.
The MAPC has been given funds from the Gaming Commission to assist Rentham, Foxborough, if Walpole and Norfolk decide that they have maybe impacted those communities as well. So we've been talking to them about what sorts of things we need to be asking to make this determination. But I think it's wise over and above that assistance.
Okay, Jim, you'll follow up? You'll stay in tune with that?
As long as it's going to be on the next agenda item, I'll reach out to the Racino, Mike Davidson, to make sure his committee can come in front of us and present what they have,
If they're ready?
if they're ready. And then the next step is to have the attorney send it over to
Okay, great.
Plainridge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sharon.
Okay. Police Chief O'Leary, Sharon Watson, Town Planner, and request for no parking zone, Springbrook Road and East Belcher Road. Everybody come forward. Edward? I guess we'll start with you, Sharon. I would imagine we'd start with you on this, right? Because there was a planning board decision on this, correct? On a third skating rink that started this conversation?
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Yes, the Foxborough Sports Center, Mr. Tussis is here, applied for a third rink at the center. And in conjunction with that, he's increasing the overall number of parking spaces and acquiring land on Springbrook Road. You should have had a memo in your packet. And one of the key factors that the planning board looked at because of, for lack of better words, the history of parking problems associated with large events was the development of a traffic management plan. And the chief and Mr. Tussis spent a lot of time coming up with a plan for events where there would be more than 250 people in attendance, and what the various actions would be taken in order to minimize the problems associated with large numbers of folks showing up for a fixed event. Part of the problem, one of the things the planning board was very insistent upon was that to the extent possible, school groups should come in buses to decrease the number of cars. And with the buses need to be parked off-site. And the board was very concerned that along Springbrook Road, if there were parking on both sides, it might be difficult for the buses to either park and wait for the game to be over or even pull out of the new parking lot. So the questions of parking on Springbrook Road were looked at, and we consulted with the chief what his ideas were, and we're here before you this evening to see what we can do to minimize impact of off-site parking for very large events.
Edward?
Thank you. A member of my staff, Alan Haskell, who has devoted a lot of his time in analyzing traffic plans, certified as a traffic crash reconstructionist, did meet with Mr. Tuzos, went over in detail the plans to make sure that the traffic management aspect of the new build-out would be sufficient and prevent disruption of traffic flow in general, and provide a safer method for people to come onto the property, drop off young people that are going to be participating in skating events, and then park them safely. And as a result of that, an issue came up about parking on different areas of Springbrook Road, as well as different areas of East Belcher Road. and I believe I sent a memo to the board to have a hearing on this matter. So as we're seeing the construction of the new facility, the additional sheet of ice, so-called, and the development of a parking area, that the entry point would be from the current Foxborough Sports Center onto the new parking site that was in the process of being developed. When I was out there 2 weeks ago with Mr. Pecos, Mr. Lawson, and
Mr.
Sparrow,
Presley, yeah.
you know, to talk about the traffic situation out there and the flow of traffic. And that's why the proposal's in front of the board. I have had contact from other people about the parking situation there, and I think that it's appropriate, if we're gonna have this change and expansion of a very active business, that we take this step to try and work through with all the abutters, so that we can have a safe traffic flow in the area.
John, you have any questions?
Just, Chief, what would be the trigger for putting this plan into place? In other words, would they have to have an expected amount of volume to then say, okay, we're going to implement either portions or all of this plan? Because on a slow day, it may not be necessary.
Well, the trigger is the amount of people in the facility, which is 250 people.
Right, so that, anything below that, or?
Below that, the traffic management plan itself doesn't necessarily have to be followed. But when you have multiple people coming now for 3 different rinks, and people arriving early for their time period, while you still have people on the ground participating in events, as we get night games, tournament games, those numbers are gonna be met on a more regular basis.
Participants and
Right.
observers and fans and family, and, yeah. So it's 250 expected, and that would trigger the
Right.
plan? Okay.
The process that the Lieutenant Haskell and Mr. Tussos proposed is that when Mr. Tussos develops his schedule, they will sit down and identify those events when they anticipate 250 spectators. Foxborough playing Mansfield, for example, that's bound to be a good draw. So they'll identify the events that they think they'll have to implement the traffic management plan. And we have a provision that at the end of the year, the planning board, the police department, and the applicant need to meet and say what worked, what didn't work, what do we have to fine tune, and what do we have to change. So it's the start of a process that we hope will improve as time goes on. But the parking along East Belcher Road and the parking along Springbrook Road it can make it very difficult for other people in the area to get through, kids jumping out of cars, very narrow roadways, not well lit. And safety is a concern when you're dealing with children. So we'd like to make sure that as many people as possible can park in the parking lot. There are many more spaces than there were previously. But as the chief said, people come early before the other game is over, and there aren't enough spaces for that changeover always. So
Okay, then what? Where do they go?
we've suggested that the parking lot be turned into areas and that people are directed to an area so that the next group coming, there's one whole row that's available, and you can put the early birds in that row, and then as other people pull out from other parts of the lot, you can backfill. So Mr. Tussos is required to hire at least 4 attendants to direct people through the lot. It's now a one-way traffic pattern in from East Belcher, around the building, out onto Springbrook at the new driveway on Springbrook, so that people trying to come and go from the single driveway will be decreased. And it's a successful business. They're doing very well. They've turned out a number of exceptional hockey players that we're seeing in the, the National Hockey League and other places. It's a real credit to the community and a really positive thing. We'd like to take what we think is the one problem and come up with solutions to make it work for everybody.
More questions, John?
But the one problem being the parking on...
The parking for these large events, which are typically restricted to Wednesday and Friday afternoons.
So it's the parking on East Belcher?
Parking on East Belcher, parking on Springbrook.
On Springbrook, right.
Both streets.
Full-time or just?
What is you had in your memo, Chief, specific hours that you had recommended that there be parking restrictions?
I didn't think to bring the memo, but I provided the board with me.
Here, thank you, Lorraine.
One of the issues, not just about the traffic and the parking lot, has to do with, right now, we have temporary parking signs that I put up when the facility was first opened, because there was no specific time for hearing to have the board vote on permanent parking restrictions. So from the Foxborough Sports Center on the east side of East Belcher down to Cohasset, that's only a temporary signage that we've been trying to utilize to manage the traffic events. Unfortunately, the vehicles are parking in such a manner as to block the sidewalk access that was required by our planning board for the applicant, because there was a perception that young people would be walking down East Belcher and being picked up by people down on Cohasset Street. I don't recall anybody ever talking about any of the kids leaving the facility and walking down to that as a pickup point. The other issue has to do with Springbrook Road itself. We actually did a field inspection to take a look at a situation on Springbrook Road, just because the entire area during the day is blocked with cars being parked for one of the businesses up there. And in order to be able to use the exit point from the new parking field, then there should be some type of restriction on Springbrook in terms of parking to allow cars to exit from that location, and potentially, depending on the time of day, people might even use that as an entry point rather than going through in front of the buildings and coming over, but also making a turn into that parking lot property.
That's a two-way entrance and exit.
Any more questions, John?
No.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, so with the additional 100, is it 114 spaces?
I believe that was the number.
114 additional, yeah.
You're saying there will still be overflow potentially onto the streets?
The zoning requires one car for every 4 spectator seats. And the experience is that people aren't coming 4 to a car. So there's more cars than the zoning calculation would suggest. And that's the crux of the problem.
And it seems to be that problem with every venue in town, whether it be Mass Premier Courts or
Right.
or even our own school on South Street when we have a Teal School has
Right.
a Christmas pageant, something cheap, people park on both
Spring
sides.
Fling.
Oh, God. So, I mean, it's always a concern. It's just how steady is the concern?
The perpetual
You know?
problem, do you build the nursing home parking lot for Mother's Day, or do you build it for the average Sunday?
Right, right.
Shopping mall
right.
for Christmas and
Or the average busy day,
That's
so.
a good point.
Once or twice a year, but once or twice a month, then it's starting to impact people's quality of life, so.
So, there is already an existing parking ban on both Belcher and
No,
Springbrook?
on the west side of East Belcher, there's a permanent no parking that was put into place back in the 1980s. There's no other than the temporary situation that I put into effect that I'm
On
kind
the
of
east
allowed to
side.
by law, as a temporary stopgap measure that's been used each season. The east side of East Belcher is not marked for no parking, nor is Springbrook Road restricted in any way.
Except at around the
And-
cul-de-sac.
Well, at the cul-de-sac, because of
The-
issues and turning radius for large trucks that make deliveries there, there is a restriction on the cul-de-sac part of it, but not on the roadway leading to the cul-de-sac.
Right?
So, but then the traffic plan that you're suggesting will allow parking for certain situations on Springbrook? Is that correct?
Well, the discussion has been whether we restrict all parking on Springbrook outside of, certain times of the day, that you might have large events in an, emergent situation where you fill up because you've got 3 different rinks in operation and another 3 sets. But I think the addition of the permanent parking and a better traffic flow into the facility and then away from the facility is going to be more important. And I think that's what we have to do, is try and restrict parking on those streets. Otherwise, people park wherever they see an open space, whether it's on a sidewalk, green space. So that's why I suggested we have this hearing, to gather information for the board to make a decision.
Thank you.
Chief, but you're recommending that your temporary parking ban be made permanent
Permanent
east
with
side.
correct.
on the east side with,
East
with
Belcher.
specific no parking times. You say here after 5 PM. Now, before 5 PM, would it still be allowed?
Well, specifically on East Belcher Road, I've never seen a car parked
Other than.
on
for the
East Belcher
sports.
Road, other than during a nighttime event that's drawing people
Okay,
in.
so that's why you chose 5
Correct.
o'clock and after. Okay.
Correct.
Right?
Well said.
Ginny?
So, the situation on Springbrook, there are cars parked on both sides of Springbrook
Yes, during the day.
during the day, and you want to restrict that to just only parking on one side, or?
At the most, only one side, although I think in my original memo, I had asked for both sides to be posted no parking.
Okay, the cars that are being parked there are obviously employees of the businesses on Springbrook, am I correct? That are being parked there?
Of one particular business, yes.
Okay, aren't there regulations on how many parking spaces you have to provide when you're putting a building up? And what happens when you exceed, when your cars exceed the number of spaces you have? Can you order that particular business to increase their parking in the parking lot to get those cars off the road?
I'm going to turn that quickly to our town planner. Yes, when a building is put up, you have to demonstrate that you have adequate parking, so that you could have both employees and customers per se
Right.
on your site.
Is that something that would have to be looked at?
I believe a number of the spaces indicated as parking spaces for employees on the site plan are now being used for other purposes, which is the reason there's employee parking on the street.
So there's not cars taking up those parking spaces, there's other things taking up that area?
Yes, there's material and vehicles.
Well, is that something that could be remedied by, a actually providing the parking spaces in that area.
I think your
calling
question is if there's no parking on the street, where are they going to go?
Right, well, they should be, well, no, what they should be is in the parking spaces provided.
Right.
Right, and that would alleviate, that's the whole idea, to alleviate parking on the street, right? When you mandate there are a certain number of spaces
Available on the site, yes.
Is that
I would
something
have
that
to
could
ask the
be?
zoning enforcement officer what could be done.
Mhm.
That wouldn't be something the planning board would deal with, but I would be glad to check with him.
Ginny? You gonna-
No, I'm all set.
Jim?
You know how I love the planning board, and
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
second-guessing your getting to this point, but I went up there the other day, and there was 40 to 50 cars on Springs Brook and an 18-wheeler in the cul-de-sac. The site is already under construction,
Right.
the extra ice sheet. So we're being asked something at the 11th hour when the site's already under construction to ban something. Now, if you're looking at the zoning for the ice rink, and I'm saying this, and I want, it's under construction, and the ice rink's going to be built, and I wish them all the success. But if you look at the zoning for the ice rink, it's 1 per 4 seats.
And he exceeds that.
He exceeds it. So what's happening is those people are parking on East Belcher, and during high frequency of high events when people are coming and going, and there's double. And that's been going on for a while.
Right.
So if you look at the zoning on, and I'll say Andy Felix's, because that's where it seems like all the trucks are there, the parking spaces per square feet of that building, he may or may not be, I think he may conform with zoning. And I asked Bill Caspera, because I'm surprised there's no letter from the building inspector in this packet, because I think that's critical. So if you look at that other business, most of those people that are parked there are off-site on other people's properties cutting trees, and they come back. They may conform with zoning, because if it's 1 per, I think it's 750 gross square feet of building, it conforms. So you've got two businesses, separate businesses, potentially both meeting zoning, but having overflow on the streets.
Right.
So I think it's a simple question. One business has 40-plus extra cars on a day. What do they do with it? You can't just say, all right, Selectmen, ban the zoning, ban parking on both sides of East Belcher and on Springs Brook, so this new development can expand, which still may not have enough parking, because you've got to do all these traffic mitigation plans. And what do you say about the existing business without having some understanding of the zoning from the building inspector, if he's in compliance or not? So it's kind of unfair to come to the selectmen and asking them for a parking ban after it's under construction, and there's conflicting stuff in this. The planning board's saying it's dangerous. The DPW, the engineer is saying you need to look at our zoning again. It's kind of everywhere in the buildings under construction. So what would you like us to do?
East Belcher, and we'll come back on Springbrook.
Well, I think the more critical thing is to have for the roadway on East Belcher, because that's carrying in the largest component of traffic. Both
That's
people
coming into the
Through
end.
traffic.
Correct.
Both sides,
As
yeah.
well as through
both
traffic
going
paths.
to Springbrook Road, going to the businesses that are in operation at the top of the hill, and once you go past former town landfill
Yeah.
down to the Comcast building. That's the greatest flow of traffic. And that area should be addressed first. Certainly we have people in the audience tonight, both Mr. Felix, who runs Tree Tech and has developed, I think, a very successful building and built in growth because his company's been successful. At the same time, other operators on Springbrook Road have had impacts by the on-street parking. So it's a balancing act that
And I think we're trying to figure this, I
Right.
mean, there's a bigger picture
Correct.
that we're not hearing because of the structure of this hearing. But I'm not sure how we can make a decision based on it. I mean, it's a public hearing, so it'll be opened up to other
Right.
discussions, but this is an issue that's been going on for a long time.
Right.
No, it's, for clarification.
Not a
it's
public hearing,
not
but it's
public
a-
hearing, it's a public discussion. Lorraine, just let Bill speak first, please.
Hi, Bill Greeter from the Planning Board. I just wanted to correct something, not to disagree with Jim, although we do disagree sometimes. This is not, the Planning Board did not come forward with this. During our process, our public hearing process for the application for the skating rink, obviously we have public hearings so during our regular process, we discussed the parking issues, and we actually were very insistent on an event plan because of issues that, quite frankly, we didn't address when the first two rinks were done, and so we made an effort to correct that with the input from the public safety officials because they were stuck with the fact that we didn't do such a good job with event planning. And quite frankly, it's the second time this has happened in the community. You alluded to the one on 106 where they have issues with events there, and they've actually reached out to their neighbors and rented spots to help with their overflow. So during our process, businesses came in and were having issues with deliveries, getting their employees down because of the existing parking problems on Springbrook. Because that's not in our purview, we asked Sharon to contact the public safety offices to bring this to your attention. So you're right, it's not a planning board issue, and the planning board is not asking you to address that problem. What we are asking you to is to hear the issues that were brought to our meeting that we don't have control of or any input or mitigation abilities, but the public safety officials and you do. So I don't know if they're going to speak tonight, but we promised that we would be here in support of their concerns because they brought it to us. So that's the crux of it. I just wanted to understand it wasn't a planning board intent for you to correct a on-site parking issue for the skating rink.
So the site plan, the site plan application and process, does that work? Will that work without banning the off-street parking? In other words, was there a traffic study that says the level of service at all these areas are fine, or the level of service fails, so you need to address?
What we heard as testimony in our public hearings were from the business owners on Springbrook that there is a parking problem now, before the skating rink expansion came up in front of us. So we promised that we would do whatever we could not to add to that with this expansion at the skating rink. And then we said the existing problem, we can't, it's out of our purview. It needs to come in front of here as a public hearing, or however you phrase it, through the public safety officer. So, and there's still one more parcel to be developed down there. So it's, it's when a business gets to a point that it has to do something, when we're requiring Mr. Tuzo to do something to try to help it and not contribute to it. And we've talked with other business owners on that street and said, if you don't have room for your employees, you need to do something to help out. It's no different than with any of the businesses downtown. We all have to work to try to get a solution out of this, and there's going to be some pain and moaning and groaning to get this done. But in order to be consistent, it has to come here and for you to deal with it.
So if it goes in the direction that we take the advice of the public safety officials and no parking at all on Springsbrook and East Belcher, what happens to the businesses in the
I believe, first off, I think the chief might have and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I think that you've modified the initial no parking at all on Spring Brick to one side, which would allow, quite frankly, there's times when the existing, before the new rink started, where public safety vehicles could not, let alone the public safety vehicles couldn't get down there. So that in itself would warrant him coming to you to talk about it.
And again, Bill.
Does it mean that nothing's ever going to happen, or, that the skating rink isn't going to overflow? I would say positively that it will overflow, just as when the Orpheum does something and we have parking around the common and there's a problem. We can't plan for every single possibility, and there absolutely will be times when the chief is going to have to whip out the pencil and ticket people. No one likes to get ticketed, but if you go into the city and park where you shouldn't, what happens? You get tickets. So, it's going to be a problem, and you're not going to solve it tonight, I don't think, but I think it's something that's going to need to be worked on.
Mr. Chair, if I might, this seems to be a two-part problem to me, one being East Belcher and the other being Springbrook, so it might make some sense to bifurcate those issues. I think you could probably deal with the East Belcher Road issue tonight, and then schedule another night for the Springbrook to be gone through in more detail. It seems there's a lot of interested parties that may want to be heard on that issue, all being Springbrook businesses, and we do have a very busy agenda tonight, and it may make more sense to give that some more time at a later date.
How's the board feel about that? You want to let these people speak that are here now?
Sure, yeah, and I just want to be clear, and that's the danger of bringing, probably months of hearings onto a table and trying to get it done in a half an hour.
Right.
I'm not second guessing the planning board, but it just seems like everything's coming together for tonight, and, the different pieces of information that we got don't seem to, and there's the big question out there is, at the end of the day, what do you do with the other business? Is he conforming to zoning? If he's not conforming, then he's got to change it. If he is, then this needs to be some type of a compromise somewhere. And I didn't see in here, Chief, that
You amended to one side.
yeah. So
No,
was there
I
a
meant
second
that.
letter?
No, that was a discussion we were just having.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Sorry.
But do all the businesses on Springbrook, do they all have adequate parking in their parking lots for the size of the building and the number of their employees?
They all meet the requirements under the town zoning.
But there still is less spaces than there are more cars than than.
It's my understanding that a single business accounts for most of the on-street parking.
Can I speak to this?
You're gonna be able to if you control yourself, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I just want to shed
Okay.
some light.
Yeah.
I get it, make a lot of things better.
All right,
Yeah, and I think that's just the question I had. Does Andy's business conform with zoning? If you look at his building
I
and the
would have
and the
to ask
parking.
Bill.
okay. All right, I'll open up to a couple of people in the crowd, okay? Rich, please, you go first. And, yes, yeah, right there, because it's all the room we got, with the mic we have, and for the record, please.
For the record, my name is Rich Tuzos, Foxborough Sports Center, 10 East Belcher Road. I just want to clarify a couple things. We've been open, this September will be 9 years, so it's historically, any kind of parking problems that we've had or any kind of events that we've had, we've worked hand in hand with the police department. We've had details out there, and historically, it's just during high school events, just like a high school football game, high school hockey games. I just trying to clarify when everybody says these big events. We historically, between 8 to 10 times a year, have had overflow parking on the street. And it's just like Sharon had mentioned before, during like a Mansfield, Foxborough, Severian, CM type hockey game. We don't expect to have that with the third sheet. We're not going to have 3 high school games at a time. We said that to the planning board. I work with the planning board. I agree with what the planning board had to say. I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say misinformation. However, the way it's brought up to the board, it's like there's a consistent overflow parking problem. There is not, nor will there be. There'll be a total of 334 parking spots when it's all completed. We have 188 right now. We're not planning on having 3 major high school games at once. We work with the police department. We're gonna have the details. We sell time. And what happens, God forbid, there's an injury on the ice, a Zamboni breaks down, or something happens and that time backs up. All I asked, and when, I talked to the planning board, if there is a problem, an injury, and it takes 45 minutes for someone to get, off the ice, to get them off by the time the ambulance and everything comes and they, do their thing, that backs up the next 2 things, and sometimes we have that problem. That's basically during high school events, when we have our large crowds. We don't have large crowds right now. There's, a total of 30 kids on the ice, 2 parents. You do the numbers, and that's what happens right now. We don't have that. Once in a blue moon, there's an overflow. I just want to make that clear to the board. I don't want to see people that if we're backed up and they park on the street, that there's going to be a problem and they're going to be ticketed and towed. You can do what you want to do, but I just don't feel as though that's fair to the customer. Other businesses in town, or events in towns, it's the same thing. If there's a funeral, a huge funeral, people park everywhere. You offer them, people park everywhere. High school football games, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying at this point right now, the way it sounds like they're trying to say between Andy's and mine that we're just constantly overflowing that street in that area, and that's not the case. And I just want to make that, I'm open for any questions. People have anything for me? But I just want to make historically for 9 years, or going on 9 years, this is what it's been, and it's really not going to change.
Thank you.
Mark? When the third rink is built, with the additional parking spots, what would be going on in the third rink while the other 2 are having,
Practices, during the week, there's practices.
Okay, so you might have 40
There's
people.
15 kids, it's a team.
Okay.
15, 20 kids, 1 or 2 parents.
So the additional parking that you're putting in for that rink, you think could absorb that which is spilling over right now?
It will. My biggest concern is, God forbid, in that timetable, if something happens on the ice, we back up for some ungodly reason. There's a double overtime, triple overtime in a game, and it backs up. I can't say, I'm not going to sit up here and say 100% that there won't be parking on there, but
that's the only scenario you can come up with that might cause it.
yeah, we had a Zamboni breakdown one time in the middle of the ice. It took us an hour and a half to get it off. It's 12,000 pounds. It backed up time. And, the other day we had a parking, granted we are in construction, there was a figure skating thing. They told us 35 kids were going to do this competition. It was 135 kids. They brought their mother, their father, their grandmother, their grandfather, their uncle. There was 300 people there. We weren't ready. I brought in the 4 people. I called Sharon the next day. The police department came down. I talked to the officer. We worked it out. And, by 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the traffic was flowing again. And it's, we're talking, even during the games, you're talking maybe from 6 to 8 at night. A couple of hours, 8 to 10 times a year. You're not talking all day. You're not talking, 4, 5, 6 hours. You're talking a couple of hours. On a road at that time of night, in that area, there's 3 houses past Springbrook, and past Comcast, and that's really it. It's not a heavily traveled road. It's not an Oak Street, not a Mechanic Street. I live in the town. I live on Cohasset Street. I've lived here for 25 years, so.
Any more questions?
Just one more question, but in the case of a spillover, say it happened, are you prepared to implement a plan that public safety and you can agree on?
Well, we have that plan. Like we did this Saturday. I called 4 people in. We got 2 people on Springbrook, 2 people on East Belcher to get the traffic flowing. Unfortunately, what happened was the people didn't listen to the person that was out in the street. They parked in the cul-de-sac. The police department were notified. They came down. I talked to the officer that arrived. We straightened it out. We got the people to move their vehicles. And then, we work hand in hand with the police department. We have the details. I sit down with the police in end of September when we have a schedule. High school starts first week in December, ends the end of February, the 3rd week in February. This is 3 months, 2.5 really. and we work in hand with them.
It's my understanding that you have agreements with some of the businesses on Springbrook to use their parking lots after they've closed for the day?
Yes.
So spillover can go in there.
But really,
Right.
we're thinking more buses, like two, for the buses to get there.
But, honestly, if it was me, I'd probably park where it's the easiest way to get out. And if that was East Belcher, I think that's probably why some people park.
Well, we added a new entrance on the side of the rink that's really close to where the parking's gonna be off of Springbrook. And we had signs up there, and we try to tell people it's actually shorter to go in that way than it is to be out in East Belcher, and I don't know, they're
They'll
ignorant. It's kind of difficult.
Learning curve.
Excuse me, yeah, it's a learning curve.
Anything else,
No,
John?
I'm all set.
All set? Now, Jeannie?
Just one. The number of parking spaces that you have, or you will have, is that to the requirement, or is that the maximum?
No, it's over the requirement.
It's over?
It's over the requirement.
So your parking is
The
full?
requirement for the town was 88 parking spots per rink,
Mhm.
and we've exceeded, times that by 3, I can't do the
Yeah,
math.
and there's no more space to increase?
We identified, if the driveway in from East Belcher is one way, we've allowed Rich to use that for 19 parking spaces on the grass,
Well, provided they back in. Is that what-
provided they back in and back in parking. So he has that parking, and then, as he said, or as I reminded him, he has agreements with several of the businesses on Springbrook to use their parking lots after hours for additional overflow.
Anything else?
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Rich. Andy, you want to speak?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Andy Felix from Tree Tech on Springbrook Road. And I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. It's been a frustrating few months for me in town with specifically the planning board. I tried my effort, to kind of thin things out and move things around by doing the compost site and trying to help the town at the same time has fallen apart. So that effort I've tried to make to create more space, that was really what the impetus was, is not going to work. So my business and this, the way it's set up and my original site plan from 2000, we're in violation of that, and I know that. We're not storing materials, as Sharon said, in spaces that are designated for employee parking. I don't know what she's talking about. We just have too many employees, period. So we're working right now just to move. Okay, we got to. We have to make a change. And we've just been doing our thing year after year and growing and providing jobs and representing this town and doing things for this town. And, and I understand we're overflowing Springbrook Road. I don't really think you need to make it a no parking thing. I beg to differ on Bill's statement about emergency vehicles not being able to make their way down that road. I would never allow that road to get plugged up for something like that to happen. But the solution really is for us to move along. And I'm working towards that. So if that helps.
Well, sounds like you are having some growing pains, Andy.
Yeah.
Now, I thought there was another parcel available up there.
Nothing that would be usable for us.
Okay.
I don't think. I mean, Rich and I have a good relationship, and we've communicated through the years. I offered to have him valet park some of his people into our yard, or however, just use it if he needed it. It's been a very cooperative effort. I'm not sure who specifically has a problem, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I know it's not right. And, I'll do my part to fix it. But I just, I just don't think you need to even bother with this. And you don't even know how it's going to go yet anyway. So why make this, no parking thing when you don't even know if it's a problem? Okay?
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Art, come on up to the mic, please.
Arthur Rounds. I live at 141 Cocasset Street. I also have property on Springbrook Road. My son has a business there. This parking is a two-part thing, two-part problem. The hockey rink itself, originally was a serious problem on a public safety issue on East Belcher Road. Every time they had these large events, there was cars parked both sides of the road with people walking up and down the street, which I expressed at the planning board meeting. And also Mr. Flato did also of Springbrook Road. A very dangerous situation. The day-to-day parking on Springbrook Road, I wouldn't even call it on-street parking. The cars are on the sidewalk, the grass strips. Hopefully Mr. Felix can find someplace else to park his employees' cars. But it's a disgrace what's happened there. That wouldn't be allowed anywhere else in town. I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Art. Okay, I think it's a pretty highly emotional topic. I figured it would be tonight, so I would be, I think, more inclined to put this off to another night. Get more informed, get some zoning checks like James suggested. I mean, I think East Belcher is kind of, sounds like, to Mr. O'Leary and everybody else, is the no-brainer for no parking. It sounds like East Belcher's the road. Obviously, Alex is having growing pains. I think we can, don't need to make any drastic decisions tonight. I think we need to work together as a community and try and figure this out. And I'd say put on the agenda for, not the next meeting, the meeting after that. Let's, a couple of us meet with the individuals on site and see what we can come up with as a collective group. I don't think anything's gonna be decided tonight that's gonna be, it's gonna be, it'll be, in my ideas, pretty quick, shoot from the hip decision with the information I have. If that's the way the board feels, that's what I'd like to do, is put it off for a month.
Jim, you said you needed input from Bill Caspera? Or perhaps more than just Bill?
Is there any, from a site plan approval process, is there anything, another question, is there anything that's tying the parking to the certificate of occupancy by us putting it off? I mean, I don't know what we're gonna decide tonight, but if we put it off for another meeting, is that gonna affect the certificate of occupancy tied to the site plan approval? Yeah, I think my question is, I'm seeing things that says, it's a safety issue. And I'll be honest, and Andy, I'll be fair. I was amazed that there were 45 cars in an 18-wheeler. If I had a business next to you, I'd be kind of angry. So well, I'll go tomorrow, see, I can't imagine the one time I came down was the pinnacle of your parking. But there's an issue out there, and we're not qualified to do this unless we have that input. But I think the biggest part also is zoning. If Andy's not in compliance to zoning, that's an issue with the town. Then you say conform to zoning. Here's your building, here's your parking requirements. You need 65 spaces, whatever the number is. Go out and count it. If there's 65 spaces, then we approach it from a different perspective. If there's 30, then Andy, get your act together, move the logs, park the spaces to conform to zoning. I don't think we have that. And this is not the table for that. That's a zoning issue. We're trying to deal with something after the fact. And again, I said it at the beginning. I don't want to second guess what the planning board's saying because they've been doing this for months. But it's kind of all bottlenecked right here, and we've got a half an hour to figure out something that is affecting people's livelihoods, an existing business and an expanding existing business.
It's one of those things where it's a tough decision. You get a lot of kids that work in this town that work there, and, you know, one thing that does come to mind right off the top of my head is you get a parking lot that's free to park at on, for the transit parking lot we built on County Street.
I always get that wrong.
It's free to park at. As a temporary solution, maybe I'd suggest that you can stop parking some people there and shuttle with a van or something.
Well, that was my
I
point,
mean-
is that Andy's got a unique business, and that his guys show up in the morning, get on trucks and leave. They're not working in the building per se.
Right.
And could you stage their cars elsewhere?
I mean,
Like I said,
well, you get,
I want to be in compliance. It hasn't come to this, you know what I mean? So I'm just doing my thing.
well,
Now it's come to a head.
and, within the next month, if you could do your thing a little faster, we greatly appreciate it, so we could all get along in this town. Anybody else object to putting this off for 1 month? Okay.
I think
Do we-
Bob's right, this is two separate issues.
Right, but I'm saying both
Those-
issues.
Yeah,
Th-
but I mean,
You
just.
know, we got time. This thing just started construction, it ain't gonna be built tomorrow. Rich, come to the mic, please.
I've talked to Andy, and I know what's going on with the board, I know what's going on with everything, you know, the complaints and this and that. And I said to Andy, I said, you know, I'm an evening business and a weekend business. Summertime in July, yeah, we have stuff during the day, but we're not overflowing, it's just training going on. We can come up with, I talked to my attorney, my insurance agent and everything, we can come up with some kind of a lease that he could utilize our parking at, which would be 4 Springbrook Road, of course, right next to where he is, and alleviate the parking on Springbrook. However, I'm going to ask the town not to stop the parking on Springbrook, especially at night on the weekends.
Well, that's
Just in
something
case
you
there's
can
an overflow.
propose at the next meeting, okay? And if you can get that all that paperwork sorted out between now and then, between your insurance company, I've done it, familiar situation in Mansfield with an abutter that had the same situation, so it's very easily done. So if you can get that all in order, come in front of the board, and then we'll discuss it further.
I think that would alleviate a lot what's going on, but like I said, I asked on the
Well, you
other
know, it's
side.
just- Neighbors need to get along when business are living next to each other, so if we can find a resolution between us all, that we don't have to sit up here and, throw the gauntlet down, I'd rather that, so that's why I'm gonna give you all a month to figure it out, okay?
Right.
Mark, as a point of information, if you could have them provide that prior to the meeting so that it's in the packets, so the board has a chance to review it prior to the meeting?
Okay, Mark.
Thank you.
And also, can we have the regulations in regard to parking spaces and buildings, how many are required?
Yeah, we'll get a
That
report
information.
about the zoning at the same time. He's been very open. He says he's in violation. I believe he's not lying about being in violation. So let's move on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Yeah, you're staying, right?
I'm staying.
He gets to stay.
Okay. Now, being a little bit behind, Police Chief O'Leary traffic plan for Kenny Chesney concert. I believe we have some affiliates from Walpole, but they bowed out, Edward.
Actually, Lieutenant Leland from the Walpole Police was here. We had a brief conversation. And I will be brief.
Thank you.
So that the board has other matters. Certainly, the traffic plan is still a work in progress. We've been meeting and having discussions, both with public safety officials from Walpole. Lieutenant Leland was directed by his chief just to attend tonight, not knowing what discussions were going to take place, as well as people from the Kraft Group and the stadium. Matt Pekarsky, who's a traffic engineer, is working with us on this, as well as Lieutenant Jeff Stewart from the Massachusetts State Police. The key thing to remember is we want to try and get people off of Route 1 as expeditiously as possible, so that we would have both a flow of traffic on the surrounding side roads, such as in Walpole, as well as here in Foxborough. And we're trying to balance that with the knowledge that when people do enter the parking lots, there's a great likelihood that they start their tailgating process for the concerts, and that unfortunately some individuals do tend to binge drink and create a hazard both for themselves and for other concert goers. I know that tomorrow that Dan Murphy is meeting with the town administrator for the town of Walpole to find out what sort of resources the stadium can assist in providing them, and to indicate that, you know, they're working cooperatively in developing the traffic management plan. And again, a key factor to that plan is, of course, when we're gonna open the lots. And I'm not gonna make a definitive statement for the board here until I have more information as to how we're gonna move people around within the lots themselves.
And as far, if I can interrupt you for 1 minute, when it comes to that situation, isn't this where we could have this discussion in executive session to talk about security, placement of law enforcement?
I think-
So we wouldn't basically
I think at a
tell
later
the world?
time, as we get closer to the event, and we have a more permanent idea, I would much prefer to have that discussion in executive session so that it's not broadcast and people are then making decisions based on a public statement, and they could certainly review our notes after the concerts to justify, you know, the actions that we're taking in order to ensure a safe movement.
Just wanted to ask, as part of, as you're going through and developing this plan and continuing to develop it, to make that decision when you're going to open those lots, that all lots be open at the same time in terms of fairness to all businesses out there. It's an issue that was brought to my attention by some private lot owners.
Right, and I believe that you're gonna see that addressed at your next meeting, when I've asked the board to take a look at a rewrite of the parking regulations for our commercial parking lots. At the same time, there may be situations, Lorraine, that I will open and close lots depending on the expeditious movement of traffic. I know people don't like to hear that are commercial parkers, but in order to move traffic more effectively, that might be something that we are forced to do for a short period of time, depending on what's occurring right in front of me.
Any more questions from the board? Anything to add, Ed?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, seeing that should be the end of our agenda as far as open session goes, and we've done all our action items. I just wanted to reach out, I meant to say at the beginning of the day, I wanted to thank the Founders Day Committee, Debbie Spinelli in the school department, Roger Hill in the DPW departments, fire and police, public safety, everybody involved for Founders Day. There was a lot of work to get it off with the inclement weather the day before, and it really worked well. Everybody worked together, and, you know, congratulations to all of you for that. Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
I move that we enter into executive session.
Or,
Oh, sorry.
you gotta be more specific, that reason, and then that reason.
I move that we move into executive session, and I'm mentioning these names.
Bobby, you wanna-
Do I mention the attorneys' names?
No, you didn't mention the reason.
Oh, it's pending litigation, the Weldner-Dutton matter. And then I will also, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel with Fire Chief Roger Hatfield, Town Manager Kevin Pecos, and Deputy Police Chief John Chandler.
Roll call, is there a second?
And then to add to the end of that, to exit executive session
Solely adjourned.
solely to adjourn.
Oh, sorry, and to then exit solely to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ray?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mark, yes, 5-0. Okay, thank you, everyone.